Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today, Implementing Dynamics 365 for Customer Engagement with the QuickStart method. My name is Sabrina Zamira. I'll be moderating today's webinar. Adam Hallbeck is our presenter today, and he'll be explaining what you can expect from the CRM QuickStart method available only from Stoneridge software. This webinar is being recorded, and we will share the recording with you after the event today. Everyone who is attending this webinar is on mute, and if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask them in the questions window, and I will pass them along to Adam. So if you have any questions, ask throughout, and then we can also open up for questions at the end as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Adam.
Hey, thank you. I really excited to jump into our quick start method today and kind of break down who Stoneridge software is, go into just an intro to quick start and Dynamics 365 customer engagement, and some of the expectations for the quick start implementation method and who's ready, some preparedness, and then what some options might be, kind of breaking down what we move through while we're going through a quick start implementation and some of the add-ons that we might be able to look at on top of that. So without further ado, we'll jump right into things. 1 second here. All right. So for today's agenda, we'll go through Stoneridge introduction here, just kind of give you a background on the organization, where we've been, where we're going, a little bit of a team highlight, and then kind of a self-synopsis, a little bit about myself. We'll go through the introduction to QuickStart. What are some of those preliminary concepts, and then a little bit about Dynamics 365. It won't necessarily be a deep dive by any means, but want to give a good overview of some of the features and some of the concepts that we can expect, and really what are people looking for, and as they're going through their sales management and organization and SFA journey, what are those things that really speak to organizations or speak to individuals that kind of point at we're ready for that next level, we're ready for a jump, and what can we expect from Dynamics 365. And then moving forward, we'll really break down the components of QuickStart, and I do have a couple of points to make about, or a couple of things to discuss concerning preparedness, who's ready for QuickStart, and some of the kind of success factors that might play into a really successful kind of hitting the ground situation and jumping into a quick start implementation. And finally, we're going to wrap things up by going through QuickStart Plus and the wrap. So really closing things out with like I said, some of those add-ons, some of those things that are a little out of scope, but we might be able to look at and include, and then we'll take questions, and really I'll say, as we're garnering any questions through the presentation, please let me know, that anything is coming up, and we can address things as we're going forward. All right, so Stoneridge software. Myself, before getting to the company, my name is Adam Hallbeck, and thank you for the intro again, Sabrina. I just wanted to throw up a couple of my social and contact information. So my email right there, just adamh@stoneridgesoftware.com. I do have a bio on the site, and then I do have a social presence as well on LinkedIn and Twitter. So I'm moderately active there. Love to connect, love to network. Please reach out. Would love to do so and answer any additional questions, or anything that might come up along the way. My role on the team, we all wear a lot of hats, so ask me on a Tuesday, that might be different on a Friday, but senior consultant, all-encompassingly, but really love to sit down with organizations, learn what their processes are, where their pain points are, and then take technology and figure out some cool solutions to address them, and take organizations on that journey when they're getting into new technology and looking for that successful outcome. So problem solver, and I do like to play on computers, so that's a bonus for me. But outside of myself, who is Stoneridge Software? So I am pretty humbled when I look around the office, when I'm working and communicating with, speaking with any coworkers or any of our customers or anybody in the channel. Just the resounding, the positivity and the people that make up our team are second to absolutely none. And we're named a best place to work every year. These are some of the hardware type of things, but they really do speak to how we operate as an organization. And there are a number of local groups and channels where we have the best places to work. We have more of the VAR, the value added reseller type of accolades, and some of our awards that we do take these to heart. It's not like we're really we're gunning for these things specifically, but when we are recognized for Inner Circle, which is huge, when we are recognized for best places to work from different various publications or organizations, that really does give us that validation that, hey, we're doing something right, and we've got great people that we get to execute these things with. And I will say that the underpinning to all of this is how we operate on our core values, and we'll get to that in a second here. But when you have those instilled with your coworkers, with your fellow team members, and you're kind of rowing in the same direction, you're running in the same direction, you're keeping things in focus, good things happen. So we're lucky to have been recognized, and it feels good. It's cool. We've got a great team. And speaking of the team, we do have kind of a peppering around the country here and there, but predominantly in our HQ, which is in Barnesville, Minnesota. So clearly not the pin that's further toward the middle of the state there, but up in Barnesville, Minnesota, that's where we originated. And then we do have an office in Minneapolis here, just west of downtown Minneapolis in the West End. So I hear a lot of conversation from my coworkers on, hey, I remember when we had 15 people. I remember I was number 10, and now we're at a buck 30 and growing. And so it's a crazy time, and a good crazy. It's a crazy time to be a part of the team and riding this wave. And we're looking forward, and we're growing, and it's going to be an exciting next year here. And with that, we always want to be not only successfully rolling people onto the team and sticking true to those core values, but we want to be the best of the best. So with respect to training and understanding the emerging technologies, the bleeding technologies, legacy technologies, really the gamut, we do keep on top of all of our certifications and really truly espousing that need to be, or that idea that I need to be an SME, I need to be an SME for you, I need to be an SME for my team, and that's across the dynamic spectrum, that's across all of the dynamic solutions. So Dynamics 365, traditionally CRM or customer engagement, we have AX, GP, NAV, a lot of expertise in a lot of different areas. So I get to work with some geniuses really when it comes down to it. But all of this, to repeat a little bit, but all of this does come down to our core values. So moving through everything that we're doing with integrity, that's key. And I can say that the people that I get to work directly with, the people that I get to work indirectly with, they do exhibit just crazy amounts of integrity in everything that they're doing, whether that's the minutia of the day or that they're business critical decisions that we're moving with. Technical excellence, like I said, geniuses. Don't need to really jump into that one too heavy-handedly, but I do work with geniuses, and the newer resources or people that are maybe just breaking into working with Nav or Business Central or working with AX and are eager and ready. It's pretty astounding, the tenacity that we have, and that's our next core value. Really getting after it. Whether you're a seasoned vet or somebody that's kind of fresh faced, we really do get after it, and we are pretty tenacious when it comes down to executing for our customers and really building up ourselves. And like I said, really sticking true to the SME nature of our growth and knowledge and whatnot. Client centric. I mean, it, it's it's impressive to look at what we do for our customers. And that's I'm not speaking to anything specifically, but just the way that we work with our customers, from leadership all the way down, I mean, or from those fresh faces all the way up. It's a great thing to see that we have strong relationships and strong bonds with the people that we're working through these projects with, and I mean, we we enjoy what we do. We enjoy our work. I'm lucky enough to come into the office or to go work with my customers every day and play on a computer. I mean, that's distilling it to a really basic level, but yeah, I get to do some really cool stuff with some really cool people. And when you have that combination, yeah, are some Mondays mundane? Sure. That's always going to be a thing, but I do get to look around and take a breath and go, wow, I enjoy what I do. I enjoy my work. I enjoy my team, and it's a cool feeling. And it's unique. Not everywhere you're gonna look is gonna carry that same sort of mentality. And with all of that said, just some of the numbers. We do have a lot of content out there. So we have our blog channel. Go check it out. We have blogs across all the Dynamics, all the platforms. Whether that's AX, which we have. I mean, we have a ton of content for AX, CRM, Business Central, Nav, GP. It's out there. So just some of the figures. We do have more than 1,000 subscribers. We have a ton of content, as I mentioned. So we've got 700 and growing. That, I mean, this is a one-stop shop for a lot of valuable information. So, and our visit count is impressive. It's getting up there, and we're churning out more and more, and it's quality information. These are quality blogs. So go check them out. And just in terms of, hey, where have we been? The numbers on what we've done more broadly than just content or knowledge and training and the blogs and everything. 1,000 hours user training delivered, 50 plus go lives, and you can see that our clients, our customer numbers are continually growing. And that obviously blends into our team growth as well. We need to be able to support those numbers, but it's impressive to see the growth since really, I think our inception point was in 2012. So, a younger team, but we have that tenacity. We do enjoy our work. We are client centric. I mean, the core values underpin what we're doing, and that's why we're seeing the growth that we are seeing. And across industries, we do have a very strong AX practice. So a lot of manufacturing, engineering, construction. The other three on here: distribution, professional services, agriculture. These are some of the bigger ones. We do have medical device. We have some manufacturing, like unique manufacturing. I work with a customer who crafts designs. They make insane playgrounds globally, global distribution. So we have a lot of flavors of the customers that we get to work with. So that was I drew it out a little bit, but it's important that we understand, Stoneridge Software, where we've come from, where we're going, and really who we are. That's the important part. Who are you working with, and understanding their values. But the meat and potatoes of what we wanted to get into today is about QuickStart and QuickStart in implementing Dynamics 365 for customer engagement. So really just focusing on the sales there. So for QuickStart here, QuickStart is just that. We're looking for a quick start. We're looking to really streamline things. So it is a scaled down implementation. This is something that is very condensed, and we're running on short timelines, but it's all intentional. We're trying to fit something in that is fast paced, but it's going to give you your bang for your buck. So while it is scaled down, and it does focus just on sales and customer management, so we're looking at working with accounts and contacts, so your customers, and then looking at more pipeline-centric entities, or pipeline-centric pieces of sales management, so leads, managing leads and moving to opportunities, so kind of the pipeline stuff. But this really is a streamlined and an efficient way of getting something off the ground in a quick way, in a quick fashion, so it's cost effective. And the two the two bullets I have at the bottom there, yeah, this is limited scope equals limited overhead. So yes, while we are working on something more condensed, that's intentional. You know, we want to make sure that we're being efficient. We want to make sure that we're giving those core pieces, those core tenets of sales, you know, sales management, some of the introductory pipeline pieces, customer management, offering that up in a short timeline. And that bottom bullet there, faster timelines equals speed to productivity. We all hear about speed to market, you know, time to market. How can we get to market with a product? You know, how can we get you know, to competition or in front of competition? But you know, with what we have with QuickStart, it really is speed to productivity. We're looking at a condensed timeline, a shorter timeline. Yes, limited scope for sure. You know, these are very introductory pieces that we would be putting into place for you, but it does get you that speed to productivity, that speed to getting your team productive, to getting your team in there, getting your team working with Dynamics 365 and working in the system and getting that elevation more quickly than you would in a more expensive, much longer implementation or project. So for Dynamics 365 specifically, I've talked about elevating your team and I've talked about taking that next step, but you know, how do we define that? What are the pieces? What are the rubrics? Or you know, what is the rubric rather for that journey, you know, for that next step. So I bucketed a few things out with some sub points here. So number one, customer management, you know, looking at those relationships and having that organization or having that segmentation for the data that you're working with. So, you know, when I'm talking about accounts and contacts, I'm looking at your customer, you know, that's really organizations and people working with and managing with and segmenting and owning those customers, those clients, whether that's B2B, B2C, whatever your model might be, just really owning those and organizing those relationships. And with those, you know, we can look at activity management and tracking. So are we, you know, do we have sales metrics where we're looking at phone calls, where we're looking at touch points, where we're looking at the activity that we're putting forth around a specific account that we have or a specific contact that we might have in our address book or you know, in our system. So what is that activity? And really that lends to that 360-degree view of your customers. Who is doing what and when and with whom? So you know, you can see the different touch points, you can see the activity surrounding all of your customers to be able to paint that picture of you know, do we need, and translate that to a tangible, hey, do we need to kind of up our game with a specific subset of customers? Do we need to be putting more into a relationship? You know, it really is getting that relationship understanding with your customers. But from more of an SFA, like Salesforce automation perspective, you know, we have sales and pipeline or sales pipeline and forecasting. So with QuickStart, we're looking at getting that entry level to lead to opportunity management. So, you know, the leads, the business cards, the quick hits at a trade show, something really introductory. Hey, these are the leads that we can get in our system. These are the leads that we can follow up on, that we can manage, that we can nurture, that we can push through and maybe move to that opportunity to close business. So with QuickStart, we are looking to get something in place, again, from an introductory perspective, but get something in place to be able to manage that lead to opportunity, that pipeline process more effectively than you might in legacy systems, or that you might in Excel spreadsheets or flat files or disjointed this or disjointed that. So having something consolidated and central and in one place. Productivity ecosystem. I mean, this you know, Dynamics 365 and the Dynamics platforms that we work with, that we implement. You know, 365, or traditionally known as CRM specifically, or that customer engagement, you know, that really does seamlessly tie in with other Office products. So we're looking at Outlook. There is a OneNote integration, and that's a little out of scope, but just to kind of highlight that we can have these you know, we can have these systems talk to one another. We can you know, have a broader spectrum of tools in our toolbox to be able to use, you know, and there are native Excel integrations or capabilities with Dynamics 365 for customer engagement as well. And then that bottom point, Mobile capabilities. We're living in a mobile world when we're out in the field, or we're on the go, especially for anybody that might be in outbound sales or does that travel for the team or for trying to close business. Mobile productivity is an ever increasing need. So with even plug and play Dynamics 365, we do have the ability to get that app in front of you. There are Outlook integrations as well. So this is all pretty seamless right out of the box, and that's been a big, that's been a one that we're seeing more and more, and that's, we've probably been saying that for 5+ years, but it really is ever increasing, and there are a lot of strides that Microsoft has made and that the platform has made in some of those mobile capabilities for Dynamics 365. And I just wanted to, give some visuals. I can be a visual person every now and then, giving some breadth to what we're talking about. In the far background there, you see some out of the box dashboard, sales activity dashboard, and it just has a highlight of, some pipelines. So being able to tie real, or possible dollars all the way through. A defined pipeline there, and we have just an account. So when I was talking about accounts and contacts, if anybody's not familiar with Dynamics 365 or the UI, just wanted to give a little light on, shed a little light on what these things are going to look like if you pop into the system. So that middle pane there is an account. So that would be our customer and organization, potentially with some standard contact information, some relationships. You can see it tied to a parent account, and then in the middle of the screen there, you can see some of the activities. There are a couple. There's a phone call. There's a task. There's an opportunity closure. We can see all this rolled up to that account level, that customer level, and that's what really does paint that picture for us. That 360-degree view for what we've put into everything touching that account or everything touching that customer. And on the right-hand side here, this is you can with one click and looking to the left of your screen, be able to just pop open the rest of the Office, or anything that's touching Dynamics, the rest of the Office platform, go into Excel, go into Word. So if you do have that Office subscription that affords the use of these other technologies or these other tools, right from Dynamics 365, we have that ability to pop over. So it really does lend to that productivity. It lends to that efficiency and gives that feel, that vision that Microsoft is striving to get in place, that that one-stop shop for everything that you might need to jump into. So in terms of the real guts of the real pieces of QuickStart, what can we expect from QuickStart? What's in scope? Really, what's defined as being a part of a QuickStart implementation? And then, really kind of leading things off with, right at the top of the screen here, who's ready for Quick Start? And I've kind of hinted at or very explicitly talked about a couple of these points already, but I wanted to package everything up here. And, who's ready for Quick Start? It's really those teams, whether that's leadership or sales, they're looking for that structure and organization. I've worked with a lot of teams that have data living in actual physical files and folders. They have data living in Excel spreadsheets. Everybody's sort of got their own system. Things can be disjointed. Things can be disparate. And Dynamics 365, or getting a quick start implementation to unify all of that is really valuable. And looking for that structure and organization, looking to bring everything into one place, a one-stop for the sales team, for a sales implementation. We've already talked a little bit about forecasting and pipeline management. So being able to tie things to more of a process, tying to, here are our leads, here's our bucket of leads, this is what's moved on to potential dollars or those opportunities, and then to, the end game being real dollars, closed opportunities, realized revenue. So not only unifying and getting everybody into one place, but seeing that transformation, seeing those leads turn into opportunities, turn into potential dollars, and then realized revenue, getting that in front of a team and accessible across team members is key. And I've already talked about that disjointed, growing out of Excel spreadsheets. Like we realize there's a need to unify. We realize there's a need to get everything consolidated and moving past just something that's flat, moving past something that's a little bit more one-dimensional and getting that, getting that three-dimensional, that relationship-based view that we have, or that the insights that we have with Dynamics 365. And we have already hit on the integrating with other Microsoft technologies. So Dynamics 365 does have some native Excel capabilities to tie in there. So it's not that we're abandoning Excel or any of the, we might work with Word, we might work with there are a number of them out there that have been around for quite some time, the traditional Office apps. But we do have the ability to integrate, especially with Outlook. That's a big one, being able to integrate Dynamics 365 with Outlook. And then, from a mobile perspective too, being able to pull that up on a phone or a tablet while you're on the go, while you're on the run, is important. And it's taking your team. It's advancing. It's that next step. It's continual improvement. So so in terms of preparedness, who's ready for a quick start implementation? Who are when we look at success factors, when we look at being able to streamline right into day one, here we go, we can do this every hour, is going to be very pointed and efficient. Number one is clean data, and I think that's probably that might be number one for any implementation that's out there, whether that's hundreds of thousands of dollars and multi-phase and a lot of features and capabilities that are built out, or it's something like a quick start. Clean data is going to be imperative. So if we have that from the get-go, that's where we can really define some of the data structure and the data modeling that we need to get in place, and some of the things that we might be able to build right away, and do that from day one. That second point there, internal ownership and having a process leader, this is key as well. Who on your team can step up and be that owner, be that that advocate, and that and drive from a team perspective. Hey, this is imperative and this is important, and evangelizing and really driving user adoption for that. So having somebody that Stoneridge can communicate with and drive with and really own a quick start implementation with is, that's invaluable to us, and it's invaluable to a project. And then predetermining that the SFA needs, predetermining or having ready kind of from the get-go, any process documentation. So here's what we do. Now we're going to talk about in scope, out of scope here in a second, but if there's anything that we can be equipped with that gives us insight into how you operate or how you tick, what you traditionally do. If you do run with a lead opportunity process, what are those milestones or handoffs, or what do we need to be aware of as we're going through those initial days, or that first week of the implementation of the build out. So anything we can get from a process documentation perspective, from a requirement standpoint, anything, this isn't going to be a grandiose project. I want to make sure that that's driven home. So it's not like we're going to be tracking things in probably in a big enterprise model or methodology or anything like that. But are there preliminary requirements? Are there very pointed needs for the team? Within the context of quick start. Something introductory, something that the team has been looking for. Anything that we can garner or glean from the team with respect to requirements is great. And then any current state documentation or systems. Are you moving from a legacy system? Are you moving from Excel? Are you moving? What is your current state, or your current systems you're working with, and then where are we going from there? So anything that we can really get hands-on with, or that we can be equipped with from the get-go, is really going to aid in that day one efficiency for jumping into quick start. So in terms of breaking down quick start into our main buckets, first we have professional services and training. So you can see our main components to services and training on the left. So subscription setup, administrator training, and end user training. So it does take a little bit to go in and get to get our users created. You can see right there we have a limit of 10 users for a quick start. but we do take a little bit to get everything kind of kicked off for everybody. Administrator training, this is where we can hand off or have some knowledge transfer for anybody that's going to be owning those system administration type of tasks. So nothing too in depth. This isn't really high level or heightened level administrator training, full on Dynamics 365 training, but we can outline and provide a little documentation on define how we create users, where we can go and define security roles, how people or if people can use certain capabilities in the system, some of the standard system settings config, and then I've mentioned the Outlook integration. So how can we plug those things in? How can we get those things talking and get you guys off the ground with Dynamics 365 and Outlook together, because it is an awesome integration. And then end user training, just product tour type of stuff, the out of the box sales functionality. Here's that lead opportunity management process. Here are accounts, here are contacts, here are the core relationships, walking everybody through those. The next main bucket is software configuration. So this is where we're actually going in and doing some config customization of Dynamics 365. So we can provide assistance for the system settings, for server-side sync with Exchange. So this is, one of the assumptions here is that we're looking at Dynamics 365 online. This is an online implementation. This is not on premises. This is moving to cloud technologies. So that is the assumption that we're riding on. That's an assumption for QuickStart. But we can set up that server-side sync with Exchange, make sure that Exchange is talking with Dynamics 365, that any email communications or anything like that is going to be set up properly for Dynamics 365. So and then that last one there is light config. So going in and looking at the core sales entities, and by entities, I mean those accounts, those contacts, the leads, the opportunities. This does include creation up to 25 custom fields, 5 views, and 1 form modification per entity. So we can modify the main form you're using for account. We can modify the main form you're using for a contact, the main form for lead, the main form for opportunity. And then the third bucket here is more security related, security and data. So we have setting up security roles, configuring security roles up to 2, and then setting up the actual users. So it's kind of an Office 365 maneuver, setting everybody up and then making sure that we have enabled users within Dynamics 365. So creation of 2 users, the roles, and then assigning those to the users in the system, and data migration. So if you have legacy systems, if you do have sales data, and keep in mind, I did mention, one of those success factors in getting into a QuickStart implementation is going to be scrub data, is going to be clean data, and having that, owning that with your team and being able to procure that from the get-go is going to be, that's going to be a pretty critical piece. So, if there are any legacy accounts, contacts, leads, and then we do look at product catalog as well. So if we have, a product list that you work with and you have a price list, we do have a little limited in scope, but we can set that up for you as well if we wanted to define those products in that product catalog. So, we're looking at importing some of those products, and then I think, the import is limited to 10,000 records per entity. So we do have a cap on how much we can bring in, but for the QuickStart implementations that we've gone through, hasn't been a big issue. We're not really running up to that level. So data migration, we're using the out of the box import wizard or out of the box migration capabilities, nothing custom or nothing using tools like Scribe or anything that might be out there that's kind of heightened. So it is all out of the box stuff that we'd be working with. Documentation and project management. So out-of-the-box training documentation, and then coordinating any meetings, and just managing the project here. So we try to keep things at kind of a minimum. We realize we're working on tight timelines. This is a quick start. We're going from start to finish in a condensed timeline. So we don't want to spend a quarter of that meeting. We really would rather have those success factors from the get-go and move in and just go to town with the configuration and get to the actual build and getting things in place. So, that said, meetings are an important part. We have to have a little bit of meeting time and making sure that everybody's on level and moving through that 2.5 to 6 week period. There definitely will be touch points, so that's included as well. Now, what's not included, and we'll have more on this in a minute, but I'll just give a really quick breakdown of some of the things that definitely will be, coming up or that might be asked about. So, subscription costs, any of there are different tiers, and going into that would be owned by your team, but supporting technologies, so setting up any Exchange or hybrid Exchange, Outlook, anything more network related. Active like AD integration, so you can select, you can configure your own domain if you've got a custom domain to have AD have your login credentials instead of on Microsoft.com, say at yourorganisationname.com or whatever your domain is there. So any Active Directory setup configuration. The legacy data scrubbing, I did mention clean data from the start is going to be imperative. That's where we would have to lean on you to get that data in an organized and clean fashion. So any manipulation, any scrubbing, any duplicates, working with that data, polishing that data, that's where we would need to lean on you to get that in place for us. But outside of that, any importing of activities, notes, and attachments, if you are coming from a legacy system that has capabilities like this, that's out of scope as well. System design, business process review, more of the process-centric things, formal reports. So we do have reporting capabilities in there, but that can play into training too. So we have a little bit of flexibility there. And then custom dashboard creation. Automation is a big one. So that bottom one there, custom workflows, custom business rules, business process flows. So a lot of these things that can guide users, that we can have, a couple click solutions, or have some of those background processes in place to automate or streamline some of the sales activities you're going through, or to play with the data, to move some data. All of that is out of scope as well. And just to round out the list, email or document templates. So the system is capable of that. Any sitemap editing or application designing, kind of the UI, UX, the look and the feel of it. And then calculated roll-up fields, anything that might be a little bit more heightened that we need to be rolling up revenues or things. Form modifications, they're limited to field view and form modifications, anything like business rules, calculated fields, we've already talked about some of those, and then custom UI, anything that is really heavily customized, or maybe custom reports or custom views with Fetch XML, Power BI dashboards, that is all out of scope there. So we'll come back to that, because while I'm saying it's out of scope, there's a little bit of flexibility with what we may be able to add on here. But I wanted to just kind of give a breakdown of how we would be moving through, in implementation, a quick start implementation. So getting started. The online system, things are going to be provisioned. You're going to get your org, you're going to get your production environment and any sandbox environments, and we'll set your users up. We'll set your security roles up, so you have the people who can access the system, and then you have the roles, the ability to access the sales piece, necessary sales pieces of the system, and then we'll get server-side sync set up. So any of that activity syncing with Outlook using server-side sync in your online Exchange, we can get that in place too. That second step, assisting with Outlook integration and mobile. So we've already talked about mobile capabilities in Outlook a few times here, but we'll look at what, the variables and some of the requirements that are in play, and then we'll give some of that administrative or that knowledge transfer on the Outlook client installation, and how you can manage getting and deploying the Outlook client, or the mobile app and the Outlook integration in place for your users, and then provide additional information on accessing the mobile client, and like I said, managing some of those pieces, customizing the system. So we did talk a little bit about 25 fields, main form modifications, some pretty light software configuration. So we'll move into some of the more custom components for your team, and then we'll create a couple of custom queries. If we need custom views, whether that's geo-specific or whatever requirements that we have to run on, we'll create some custom views, so we have some nice lists in place, and then show people, or really empower your users to be able to then themselves jump into advanced find, jump into actually querying the system data to be able to spin up their own custom views. So, empowering the user base on that side of things. Moving from customization to loading the master data. Again, clean data is going to be imperative, but moving to those accounts, contacts, leads, opportunities, and I mentioned the product catalog, so products, price lists. We'll definitely be able to explain the data structure in play. So there is a sequence to things. So we'll be guiding and consulting on that front as well, and then importing, importing the data, executing that import using the out-of-the-box import wizard in Dynamics 365, and then we go to go live. Getting prepped, making sure that you have the proper training and the documentation, making sure that that knowledge transfer has occurred, that we have the resources in place, ready to go, really prepping, and then providing go live support. So anything that might pop up, any questions that might pop up, included in QuickStart once things are there. So really, we try to keep things at a max of 30 days. I mentioned a second ago, the window can vary depending on what we want to do, how quickly we can get off the ground, how organized we are, which of those success factors we have in place from day one. We can go on the early end of things, maybe at 3 weeks, but we're trying to keep things around 30 days, and then we have seen flex up to maybe 6 weeks, but we're trying to keep things around that 30-day mark. And just a couple of other additional details. So 15 hours to import master data. So we do keep a cap on that. If it's taking more than that, we're probably working with data that needs a little bit more work, or maybe we're running into a circumstance where we may need to look at additional import capabilities. But we're working with out of the box, and if we're taking a little bit more than 15, or we're expecting that's where we'll have that conversation. But that's where we try to keep that cap. 8 hours of training, 25 custom fields. We mentioned that already. 5 custom views. And we'll talk about the out of scope stuff here in a second. And then that bottom bullet there, that bottom point, on-site travel and time, it's available, but it's not included. So there are these flex options. We can talk about that, and we'll highlight that in a second. And when you boil it down to just dollars and cents, we try to keep a cap on this. We try to keep it under 10,000. So I mean, everything included in this package, from getting started, Outlook integrations, mobile capability and empowerment, customizing the system, loading that data, making sure everything's set for you to get to that go live point, and then everything that we've talked about in those main capability buckets, or those main implementation milestone buckets, we try to keep things at a minimum. So we're looking at an under $10,000 ultra high value implementation package. So I do want to hit on QuickStart Plus, and then we can get to questions, any Q&A, anything that we want to jump into. But QuickStart Plus is, I've hinted at Flex, I've hinted at add-on, I've hinted at things that we might be able to look at above and beyond what we just outlined for QuickStart. So it's anything that's listed in the out of scope there. Anything that we need to look at and flex up, we try to keep that, or we want to keep that at up to an additional 30 hours. So we don't want that to inflate. We don't want that to get out of control, or have that scope creep or anything. So we really want to identify what are those critical QuickStart Plus components that we think will. They're going to be critical to the project. The team does need them. Then we can look at the plus option. So, maybe additional custom, like building a custom entity, or maybe a little bit of automation, working with Exchange at a heightened level, additional reports and dashboards, because they're not included in the standard quick start package, and additional documentation, additional training, things like that. So, what is the mix of additional pieces that we need? We've done I think one quick start implementation, or a couple of quick start implementations that did require a custom entity to be built, something that doesn't come pre-packaged out with Dynamics 365, but it didn't run up to that 30-hour mark, and everything was copacetic. But we do have the ability to look at QuickStart and go, nah, we need a little bit more, and we can look at a plus option as well. So keep that in mind. The quick start to go, yep, boom, we're good. We want to move forward with quick start. We want to get to that 30-day maximum high value implementation, that introductory sales for that sales management, customer management implementation. That's really where rubber meets the road for a lot of teams, and they can take off with that. But if we do need a little bit more, and it's critical that we have a little bit more, we do have that flex up to 30 hours over the quick start. So with that, any questions? I've been rambling for 45 minutes or so here. So, anything from the crowd, or anything that we want to jump into that may be glossed over, skimmed over?
Thanks so much for that, Adam. This is Sabrina. I just had one question here. How can people best prepare for this implementation? What kind of things should they be looking at with their data, and what can they do now to kind of get things started to make the process easier?
Yeah, that initial step for me is always just look at where your data is coming from, whether that's a legacy system, if people have their own ways and means of managing that data, identify where that lives right now. That could be, I've worked with teams that had actual paper files, Excel, and then they were using in a pretty old school CRM system. So something that wasn't supported anymore, something that really wasn't working for them. And so data really was living in 3 very unique areas. So that step 1 is identifying where that data lives. Step 2 is what is the best method for compiling all of that. And I have to say that getting everything into a structured Excel format is probably going to be the best way to get everything in place. So if you have if it's like contact information, having like first name, last name, email address, that contact information in nice clean columns, and then you have all of your contacts in those rows. Having those identified, compiled into something like Excel, something very structured, is that second step. And then going through and once you have everything line by line. I've seen data that when you look at it top down, whoa, hey, this is a big endeavor. But really picking through and going through and identifying what is the important data. Are there duplicates? Maybe we can peel out a lot of that duplicate data. Maybe a number of salespeople have worked with the same individual, so that we do have this duplicated, or these duplicated data points, peeling those out, and then really whittling down to that core. These are the data points, or this is the data that we care about. These are the contexts that we care about. These are the accounts that we care about. This is our product catalog, and these are the products we care about. So what's the most meaningful? Really driving toward that and getting things structured in the end. So it's kind of variable by circumstance, but that's how I usually approach, identifying where the data lives, getting everything into one place, and then really disseminating and going through and fine-tooth combing, hey, what is that data that we care about and we want to move forward with?
Great, thank you very much. And those are the only questions that have come through.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I mean, just from my end of things, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time. If anybody does have additional comments or questions, please reach out, connect with me. Reach out to Stoneridge, and we can get you more information and sit down and have a conversation about QuickStart Plus, preparedness, and what the best options are. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Adam.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.